Hi folks, this is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report. I'm here with my great friend Dave Swanson, who has helped us by putting together Up North NY and replays a lot of these shows on this weeks later, so people from all over the country get a chance to listen. And Dave, there's something I've been wanting to ask you. You had been telling me that when you go out, you're always catching fish more when the water temperature is at a certain point. Now tell me the importance of water temperature and how it relates to the different species you're catching here in Cayuga Lake.
Well, I'd love to be able to tell you exactly what temperature each fish species likes best, but I can't give you exact numbers. But I can say that with respect, in particular, perch, and that's where this conversation got started. We were fishing for perch here a week ago, and the water temperature was about 55 degrees, and we caught all sorts of perch. And then the next day we had a significant storm, and the water temperature, because of the storm, fell to 50 degrees. And the next day after the storm, we went out, and there wasn't a perch to be found in that 50 degree water. We traveled down the lake a bit and got into a spot where there was a stream running in, and I noticed on my graph that the temperature had risen about 4 degrees from the 50 that we had been running at, and all of a sudden we got into perch again. And as long as we stayed in that 54 to 55 degree water, we caught perch. If we moved out of the water into the colder water, they weren't there. So with perch in particular, that water temperature seems to make a big difference. Lake trout, it has an impact on as well. They tend to stay down fairly deep during the summer in particular, because it's cool enough down there for them to be comfortable. And I've noticed in jigging for lake trout that they want to drop off and I've checked the temperatures at different depths. They'll drop off when that temperature gets to 60 degrees. They'll chase a lure up to 60 degrees, but once that water temperature hits 60, if they haven't hit by the time they get to that temperature, they're going to stop and turn around and go back to the bottom.
This is amazing, but what if it's 55? Would that be a great temperature for them to be active as well, do you think?
I think 55 is a good temperature for them. I think anything above, probably, now, again, I'm not an expert at this. I personally think anything above 45 up to about 55 is a good temperature for them. But as I said, it's very clear to me that they dislike anything over 60.
Well, what do you think is now, again, since you're monitoring so much of this about fishing, what do you think is the biggest factor that you would go by that determines whether the fishing is going to be good or not? In other words, is it water temperature, or would it be something else?
I think barometer is probably the most significant factor. I've noticed that fishing just before and just after a storm tends not to be so good. That you're better off being a bit away from a storm, and that's usually where the barometer's either falling or has fallen, and that a rising barometer tends to be better from my perspective. At least that's when I've seemed to see more fish. And I think that's the single biggest impact other than sunlight. None of the fish, including the lakers, seem to enjoy bright sun. So in the middle of the afternoon here on Cayuga Lake, when the sun's right overhead, tends to be a less likely time to find fish. Now that doesn't mean that they won't hit, but they tend to be fewer and farther between.
Well, this is great information, Dave. You know, I've really looked forward to coming down here to spend time with you and go fishing, and also kind of pick your brain, because you're very you do delve deeply into things to try to find out what makes them work. In any event, folks, I hope you've enjoyed this spot. Until next time, this is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report.